So let's get into you. So, Victoria.
Yes.
What would you say is some of the first, I guess, anime you've watched? Like, what kind of got you into anime and the whole sphere in itself? Because we'll lead down to like how you got to content creation and things like that.
Yeah. So I'm a Toonami girl, Toonami kid. Yeah. So definitely Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, Tenchi Muyo. Like that was my introduction to anime.
I just dropped my Tenchi Universe compilation. Yo, Tenchi Universe don't get no. People don't know ball, man. People don't know ball.
It's a good show.
Yeah.
Like I feel like we don't talk about it as much, but that
extended universe of Tenchi is so. It's Tenchi in Tokyo.
I've never heard of that show.
Really?
Well, you're not even a Toonami kid. You just Sailor Moon.
No, I watched. I mean, I didn't intentionally watch Dragon Ball, but it was there,
Yeah.
So
it came on after Gundam, and I probably would have missed it because I didn't like Gundam. There you go. But yeah, I always used to like skip Gundam and then go to Tenchi Muyo and be like, I'm come back.
I love it. Even as a kid, I used to be like, yo, this show is hit. It's so emotional. And I'm like 10, 11. It's like 5:30 p.m. on a Thursday. It's raining outside. And you just see Ryoko just crying for Tenchi. I'm like, man, just give her a chance and stop trying to F your cousin. Yeah, it gets weird.
Yeah.
It's anime.
All anime gets one. So that was my intro to anime. My brothers are also like, I have 3 older brothers. They're all big anime fans. They grew up like in that like 80s era. So they're like Berserk fans and like Ninja Scroll. And so they had like DVDs of anime in our garage.
Oh, wow.
And so I would just like, after that, Toonami ended, I would just be like, let me go pick out some DVDs, and like came across like a bunch of random anime that way. And then of course, just like random websites.
Nice.
And forums. Like, what's the best anime to watch? Top 10 anime lists.
So what would you say, like, I guess kind of go into the content creation side of it, like your journey and everything? Because you've been on a mic for over 10 years.
Yeah,
so like
for real.
I know the Sailor Moon fan club thing has been going on for 5 years now. That started in March 2020. The world shut down, and you said, you know what, it's time to launch.
It's time.
No, I was actually planning to launch from January, and then I was like, I'm gonna launch in March because that's the creator of Sailor Moon. Her birthday's March 15th, so I'm like, I'm gonna launch then. But then it was like pandemic.
It worked out.
Like, well, here's a podcast for you to listen to while you're inside.
Yeah. Would you say that was almost kind of like a perfect storm, almost?
Kinda. I mean, it definitely helped because I think that's one of the reasons I think I was able to get Sweetie because everyone was home.
Yeah.
And so I think like that helped a lot in that way. But I also wanted to do like a launch party.
You had big plans. I
had big plans. I'm like, I'm gonna invite people. Like it's gonna be great. Had to scrap all of that. So like good in some ways, but bad in some ways, and obviously bad because it was a global pandemic. But yeah.
I mean, so how was kind of setting up on like your own and everything like that? Because like it seems like I have my co-host, which is great, but I can't imagine kind of just like doing it dolo and kind of doing that, and just reaching out, reaching out to guests like that. Because having people like that on must mean like you must be connected. Well, or you just good with the cold email.
Game cold email game strong.
Cold email game strong out here, bro.
Yes.
That's what the same way I hit them up. I was like, hey, listen, I know you don't know me like that, but I got an idea.
Shoot your shot. That's what I tell people because that's all me. Cold emails. Get a yes. Sometimes you get a no, but sometimes you get a yes.
Yeah. But they just ignore, But you know what? That's the worst that can happen unless they call security on you. I don't know.
Yeah, which hasn't happened yet, thankfully.
So I guess what was that like that whole process and everything?
So like you mentioned before this, I had a podcast called Nerds on Hip Hop that my friend now boyfriend actually he invited me to be on. He was like, I have this idea for this podcast, and would you be interested in doing it? I was like, hell yeah, I love nerd stuff. I love hip hop. Let's do it. So we did that for 4 years. So I think going into this though is a little bit different because I'm like, ooh, I'm by myself now.
Yeah.
But since it was an interview podcast, like every episode has a guest. That made it a little bit easier because I'm kind of like, okay, I'm asking questions.
Yeah.
I have to I'm able to like kind of bounce off each other or someone else, even though it's not a consistent person.
Yeah.
It's still like I'm never like solo on an episode necessarily.
And people get to know them along with you.
Right.
And, it's a process.
Yeah. So that helps a lot.
Yeah.
So like that made it a little less scary. I also like had a lot of journalism experience before that. So even though I wasn't like doing audio recordings with people, I was like interviewing people, still like recording it and just like writing it out.
Because I was gonna say that about like your process after like listening to a couple. I'm like, okay, yours is way harder than what we're doing. I feel like in my head because I feel like you're doing so much research and knowing how to properly segue like the proper thoughts on your own every time with
Yeah.
somebody who may be the first person, you know, you may be speaking to, right? And then like you have to worry about sometimes the energy and things like that. You can try your best to be, you know, put forth the best character you can for it. But sometimes it's just not there. And I find myself lucky for having like two people with like completely different personalities than me. So one of us you might like, right?
Yeah.
Like you might
like
think
somebody.
you might think one of us is like, you might think I'm annoying, but maybe you might like him and you might like her, right?
Y'all
So
are great.
I
Y'all
find
are
what you
great.
do so impressive because I'm like,
you.
you are in the trenches. You know who these people
Yeah.
are. Like you understand like the boxes to tick. So like that journalism experience makes so much sense.
It helps a lot for sure because it's, you know, like that research. I'm like going on people's websites, going through their stuff, and like even when I send my cold emails, like I'm doing that research because I'm like, I want to talk to you about this, and that. Like I want to show that I did the research. I'm not just like, you know, sending out an email, which I mean sometimes I do, but you know, I try to do the research. And so yeah, I think that really just helps a lot.
For all the stuff that you've been, you know, we talked about all the stuff that you've, you know, done in like the introduction, but what do you think is what you're most proud of?
Ooh, oh gosh, this is hard. What am I most proud of? There's a few things. Like I'm really happy that I was able to get big guests on the show. I think that's been like amazing just because all of them are cold emails. Like there's not one big guest I had on, like Don Richard, Sweetie, all cold emails for them. And I think speaking back to the journalism, like I worked for Complex and interviewed big people before, but they came on because I was working for Complex.
Yeah. Individual brand, different from having
Right.
them.
It wasn't
Different.
because Victoria Johnson.
Yeah.
And so it was cool to like, oh, this is my thing. And they're saying yes to it and coming on like something I made. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
And I think doing the events now, because that's hard.
Yeah.
And seeing them be successful and
Absolutely.
like fun. I'm like, yay, the thing that's in my head that started in a Google Doc is like in the
Yeah.
world and people
Yeah.
are actually vibing with it.
Absolutely.
How does one even transition? Because like, you know, we sometimes have this one, especially grand dreams of doing other things. But I'm like, hey, girl, I'm like, girl, we are 2 years in.
Listen,
I've been
that's
talking
okay.
events forever.
Do
so.
it. Just
But,
do it.
How does one go from, I guess, you know, podcasting? I'm pretty sure,
Right.
like, I understand, like, the things you may have learned from being a co-host, going into on your own podcast to, you know, running your own thing and interviewing, to then hosting events and doing like the Sailor Moon day party. Things like that. How do we get there? Kind of executing the idea, the resources, things like that. Especially for you need to know like what's going on behind. Like, how do you get there?
Real quick, before we get into how she did it, so you guys know, Victoria's been running the Sailor Moon parties in New York for the past, it's going to be 30-year anniversary.
Yes.
So that's like, you know, huge considering I remember the first time you said like, I wasn't even sure I was going to do this and all that stuff.
At all.
So yeah, like tell us
Yeah.
please how you transitioned into that thoughts process, all that.
Yeah, so I'm crazy. Basically, that's why I'm like, just do it. Because honestly, I had no experience. I had zero experience. I mean, I do think every event you do, honestly, you just need to be organized. You need to communicate and be creative. And like, if you can do all those things, like if you can project manage, that's mostly what it is.
Yeah.
And so I knew I could do that. And I could communicate with people, like letting them know, like, hey, this is going to be late. Or, hey, I need this. Or, hey, what's this?
Yeah.
It's a lot of emailing. Like, that's the bulk of event planning.
Yeah.
But I just dove right in, honestly, like cold. I was just like, I'm going to try it. Like, I want to do this thing. I've been thinking about it for a while. I'm going to try it. I did have a lot of reservations, though, because one thing that I do gives me pause is always money.
Yeah.
So the first event I did, a lot of event spaces, they have you do, you have to reach a bar minimum.
Yeah.
Bar minimum was $4,000. I'm like, I don't have $4,000
Yeah.
if this doesn't reach. Or I think I like just had that like in my savings.
You got
I
to be
just
able to
got an
make the
apartment.
difference and things like that.
Yeah, so I was looking for an apartment at the time. So I'm like, I had it, but I'm like, I don't want to dump all my savings.
Yeah.
Or most of my savings. And I was still looking for apartments. I'm like, I'm gonna need this money.
Yeah.
I'm not rich. And
Especially in Brooklyn.
yeah. And so, you know, I was just like, I don't know. And then Greg from Land Party,
Yeah.
he was just like, just do it. Just do it. And I'm just like, no, I'm scared. He's like, just do it. And I'm like, okay. And then he, I always have to give him credit because he was just like, if you don't make it, like, I'll give you some money to like put towards it. And I was just like, I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Gentlemen.
Yeah. Shout out to Greg. And so
It's
I
always
did
great
it.
to have like, you know, somebody
A
around who
support
believes,
system.
people who
Yeah.
believe in the vision and what you're having there. You're gonna,
Right.
you can't do any of it alone. A lot of people will say like, I did it on my own. I'm like,
Nope.
no, you can't. You have to learn how to work with people. You
Yeah.
have to learn how to cultivate
Absolutely.
these relationships and things like that. So for somebody to take a risk on you like that, 'cause they
Right,
have to
yeah.
believe in the product you've put out
Yeah.
for almost 10 years now.
Right. Yeah. So I always appreciate him for that. And then so we So I did it, and then we reached pretty much my minimum. I think I was down by like $160, but I'm like, I'll
Yeah.
take it.
At that point,
I'll take it.
Yeah, for the vibes.
Yeah.
It's only gotten
The
bigger
vibes
since
tax.
then, right?
Yeah, so we went to a different location this year. Some more people. We're adding nail tech, so you can get your nails done at the party.
Yeah.
A bunch of other stuff.
That's
We added a
cool.
tattoo artist last year doing flash tattoos, so it's been really cool just to kind of like see it grow, see where it can go. I started doing the Magical Girls Fest last year, which was also a mini con I started by accident, honestly, because it was originally supposed to be like I was calling it Magical Girl like pop-up spa because one of my friends, she does like massages. She does a massage parlor, and she was
Okay.
asking me if she wanted to collaborate. And I was just like, oh yeah, that sounds cool. But I was like, I don't think it works for the day party, but I'm like, maybe we can do something else. I found this like venue. They were looking for events, and I was like, oh, maybe we can do it here. Venue ghosted me. But,
Man.
yeah, but I was like, I still want to do this event. So I was like trying to find a place. And then like Sailor Moon had just come out with like these face masks with the Creme Shop collab. So I was just like, okay, things are like coming together. I was like, this is all like fitting the theme. I was like, I could have vendors. And I was like, nails still. And then I got in touch with Japan Village through again, another connection. Eileen from Annie Tomo, who does Annie Tomo Con. She connected me with them, and they were like, yeah, we're down to do it. And then I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do vendors. I'm gonna have like programming. I'm like, I did like a yoga, like what was it, a movement and mobility class.
That's so cool.
And then it was like halfway through planning this, I was like, this is a con. This is a convention.
Yeah.
I was like, this is a whole vendor hall. I'm like building out vendor maps. I'm like, when did this become a convention?
this is
There you
Japan
go.
Village in Industry City.
Yeah.
Oh, the venue's huge.
Yeah. So we took over the whole like second floor basically.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and some of the first floor. We had a maid cafe on the first floor. Second floor was all
Nice.
vendors. And then we collaborated with Taro's Origami Studio, which is there. And they taught people how to make like Sailor Senshi dresses with origami.
That's awesome.
That is so
That's so
cool.
cool.
Yeah, it was fun.
So what would you say, I guess, for, other content creators and things like
Mm-hmm.
that, especially, let's say specifically in our,
Yeah.
area, right? That's looking to possibly throw their first event, things
Yeah.
like that. What would be maybe the first 3 things they would need to
Yeah.
do to think of plan before going
Yeah.
into that?
Can we take
I think-
notes?
I think I'll send you notes. No, I was already. I think one, get all your ideas down in a Google Doc, whatever, like who you want to work with, like what do you want to do, what's the idea of the event. I would say start small. I think a lot of people think like, oh, I want to do a convention. I'm going to go to like a hotel and rent out a, whatever. Or I'm going to like go to Javits Center. Like, no, like
Yeah.
don't do that to yourself. It's going to cost so much money. Find a library, find Japan Village, find, something smaller. Even like, a bar nearby. A lot of bars do let you do events for free.
Yeah, they just want people to come through.
They just want
That's
people to come
true.
through.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Some people, they'll let you do it for free if you want. If it's a free event, they'll let you do it for free.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think start small. I'm like third thing. What's a third thing? Get a Canva account if you don't have a Canva account. All my events are
Period.
literally
Let's
Google
go.
Docs, Canva, Google Sheets, and email.
Yeah.
That's all my events. Those are the 4 things I use.
Okay.
I'd be screaming about Canva to the world. I'm like, please.
I love
do it.
Canva.
Well, I mean,
and find
Canva's
people to
advertised
collaborate
everywhere.
with. Ask for help too. I think
Yeah.
definitely reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out to me if you want. Like, hey, we're thinking about doing this. Can you give advice, or do you have any venue ideas? Or
Since you were saying like writing
Yeah.
things down on Google Docs, like what would you say is like a goal of yours as far as an event goes? Like, is there like an overarching, project that you're trying to build your way up to?
yeah, I definitely want to grow the Magical Girls Fest. When I think of the Sailor Moon Day Party, I would love to do it in a park one day. Like I think of like Curl Fest and things
Ooh.
like that. And like it'd be cool to do something kind of like on a bigger scale in that
Oh,
way.
yeah, for sure.
That's kind of where I'm like hoping. That's why there's like music performances and stuff. There's like different vendors. I would love to have like panels at some point or like live podcast episodes.
Yeah.
I also have other event ideas that I'll get to maybe one day. I would love to have sponsors.
Yeah. One thing at a time, right?
One thing at a time.
Yeah.
That's
You
what
only-
I tell myself.
Yeah, and it also seems like the more you execute it, the better
Yeah.
you get at it. You're gonna make mistakes. It's not gonna be perfect
Right.
the first time around, and you gotta go into it knowing that, and just
Yeah.
knowing like, hey, if you're gonna do it again, you're gonna know the things you learned last time, and you might run into new issues, right? That you
Definitely.
didn't have before, especially at the bigger you get. So,
Right.
so for somebody
You
who's
learn.
been content creating for so long, right? What do you think for other podcasters and things like that? Because there's so many of us. Everybody
Yeah.
says you got to make the podcast equipment more expensive.
Oh,
Everybody
God,
doesn't
yeah.
need to have a mic. We get it, guys. It is expensive already.
It is.
Trust me, and we're not doing it because we're annoying. We enjoy
Right.
putting the product out there.
Yeah.
With no matter the returns, in the beginning and things like that. What would you say is some of the mistakes that you feel like a lot of podcasts make, kind of coming out the gate or within maybe their first year or things like
Right.
that?
I think maybe not having a plan on how you're going to be consistent.
Mm.
I think that's the biggest thing. Because with Nerds on Hip Hop, I think we struggled with like editing because we were editing ourselves. And it's like, we both have jobs. We was in school. Like, we're tired. I was done with school by that time. And you know, it's like, we ain't got time to edit an hour episode every week, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He broke him in like,
He's our editor.
because I do all the
He
editing
learned. He
for.
had to learn from
Shout out
scratch.
to you.
Well, I wasn't an editor
Yeah.
of anything before
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
besides like my own YouTube channel and stuff like that. I tried to make my own YouTube channel like
learn.
2 years before the podcast thing,
Yeah.
but like I had to teach myself how to do TikToks. I had to teach myself how to do thumbnails. I'm
how you do it.
Not creative by nature, so
And I am, but I don't have the time. So I'm here giving Corey advice. You know, we're working off each other.
Yeah,
and like,
that's good.
Yeah, so he had to learn from scratch. I'm like, Corey, I think all our, you know, when some of us are talking, maybe the color should be different. He's like, that's too hard. I don't know how to do that. And then he gives it a week. He's like, all right, here it is. I'm like, he
Aw.
learned so
I love
fast.
that.
Yeah.
See, I think that's a benefit with having 3 people too. Like, you can collaborate, you can work together, you can run ideas by each other, and that makes it really good.
yeah. But I mean, I be trying my best because sometimes I'm like, I do smack back at. I'm like, because she be saying stuff. I'm like, then you do it,
Yeah, no, he does.
That's fair.
and then
That's fair.
and then she's like, well, I don't got.
If I don't have the time, I can't.
no time. So I'm like,
but if
all
I
right,
do,
well,
I do.
Well, I don't. I was like, well, girl, I'm doing a lot. I be drowning sometimes, and you be sometimes smoking me with like random ads. I'm like, no, I'm not
That's
doing.
fair, and that's good
it's
too.
good. It's good enough
Listen,
right now.
Communication,
No, absolutely. That's-
transparency.
Yeah.
You need it.
It's why, yeah, no, it's great. It's
Yeah.
great the fact that, like you said, we can bounce off each other and we have that leeway at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, the consistency definitely.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like when I did the Sailor Moon Fan Club podcast, I was like, I need an editor. I know myself. I'm not editing every week. I'm
Yeah.
not doing this.
I mean, that's why I went every 2 weeks because I was like, I can't
Yeah.
imagine doing this every. Like from the gate, I was like, this is every 2 weeks, guys. We
Yep.
got too much. We don't have
Yeah.
time with our personal lives probably to do this
Right.
every week, and then like. If I had the editing bag on my back for every 7 days,
oh my God.
nah, we'd be cooked.
Yeah. So a lot of times I would batch record, but still
Yeah.
too much. So I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to like save enough money so I can work with an editor
Yeah.
who can do this for me. And thankfully, I found an editor who was like be able to work in my budget. And that's the only way. I was just like, because I knew any other way it would not work. So I had to be honest with myself. So I think that's the biggest thing because I see so many podcasts start and they don't even get past episode 10, which is fine. I mean, I get it. You figure out that it was tough because it is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
No, so
I think that's the
my
biggest
boy
thing.
told me that last year when we were at the Juneteenth thing. He was talking. He was like, "Yo, bro, the fact that y'all made it past like episode 15 is wild." And I'm like, "Huh? Well, I don't know. I felt like 15 was because this is
Yeah.
episode 54.
Yeah.
Right.
But if
I
we were
saw
every week,
that.
it'd be like 100 and something episodes.
Wild.
Which
amazing.
I'd be dead.
That's good because now I've even switched to monthly just because I'm doing the events now.
Yeah.
I'm doing
Yeah.
other things.
So much
like I'm
more.
working on my comic book, and so I'm like, you know what? That's the other thing too. Learn to be flexible with yourself because
Give yourself grace.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? I can't do weekly anymore, and that's fine because
Yeah.
I'm my own boss, and I could make it monthly now.
Yeah. I think it's always a balance of grace and accountability because
Yes.
sometimes some people you just have to find that balance for yourself because sometimes people take grace too far.
That
Yeah.
too,
Right,
Yeah.
where it's like no, but after a while it's like okay, it's not
Right.
gonna get better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not gonna magically just like people are just gonna be like, you know what, I found this thing that you made 5 months ago and now you're just gonna get mad fans. You gotta
Right.
you
Here's
gotta hold
$1 million.
yourself. But I have a question because
Yeah.
I've interned at Def Jam,
Ooh.
so I have a lot of curiosity in regards to
Yeah.
your relation to like the hip hop space and complex and things like that.
I interviewed with Def Jam, but I didn't get the interview.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to get a full time job because the way I got there was me and Kimmy went to the same college. We went to SUNY Purchase,
Hey.
so it's performing arts school and things like that. And my professor knew some guy from like who pretended to purchase in like the 90s who was the VP of like A&R at Def Jam, and he was coming there to do a lecture, and I made sure like he like knew my presence was there in like the room,
Yeah.
and I hounded him for like all summer emailing him
Nice.
about an internship until he finally responded back, and I guess he just saw how much I was on it or whatever. He was like, all right, cool, like you can start like in 2 weeks or whatever, and like
That's
I made
dope.
sure I
That's
got the credit, stuff like
amazing.
that.
Consistency.
Listen, bro, I was applying the pressure. I was like, this is the music. Because I used to be I've gotten less into music now
Yeah.
because of, one, I don't commute. So, like,
Same.
that kind of don't have the time to listen. That used to be
Yeah.
my time to do that. And two, the streaming platforms have overwhelmed me. I used to be big into going on to that Piff and like forums and finding random songs, but like now it's just like a new song is dropping as we speak right now.
Yeah.
So I guess like what has been your experience with the hip hop space and kind of integrating that into the anime space?
life.
Yeah. So I again love albums. I grew up on a lot of like hip hop, especially like for some reason it's because of VH1. I watched hip hop documentaries and got into a lot of like 80s hip hop and 90s hip hop, but I still listen to a lot of current stuff too. So that's been my like love of hip hop beginning origins. But I think connecting it to like anime, like my comic book is actually a hip hop inspired Magical Girl series. So it's about 5 girls going on tour, and then one is it's a rapper, her TJ, a makeup artist. I always forget these, which is really bad. Choreographer and the tour manager. And they're all based on like the 5 like quote unquote pillars of hip hop.
Aw,
And they're all
that's
like, going on tour, fighting monsters, and trying to figure out like why like these monsters keep appearing.
Nice.
And so thank you. Yeah, so it's been really fun to do. I'm working with the artists, just like trying to get it together and hopefully come out with something next year. But
what's your timeline
yeah,
next year?
that's that accountability thing. Got to give yourself deadlines.
Yep,
Give
right.
yourself deadlines.
Yeah, I'll get to it. You gotta like, nah, what's the hard date? And
Right.
then, Honey was saying like when you tell other people a date, then you really feel
Yeah,
Yeah,
obligated. Yeah.
exactly. That's what I do too.
Other people keep
sometimes.
yourself accountable.
right.
hey, I thought you said you was gonna do this thing.
You're right. My bad.